drink, and I turned to my wife, who was my sister's girlfriend, and I said, I'm thinking about drinking. She said, "Oh, you don't want to drink? Come on, let's dance."
Yeah.
We started dancing, and I kind of forgot all about that. We got goofy, and we were out dancing on the floor and having a good time, and I got through not wanting to drink.
She helped you through.
She helped me through, but the date that I had was one of the bridesmaids.
All right.
And she told me it would be okay to have a drink, and she'll keep an eye on me, and that kind of made sense. Yeah, you'll keep an eye on me.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So I didn't drink that night.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And,
Yeah.
and I think we started dating then, and my wife would come and visit me sometimes on the weekend up in Williamsport when I lived there.
Okay.
And I moved away like a year and a half later, and we got married in September of '78.
That's not right.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's been 30. They're come up with 34 years.
You don't hear about people staying married very long
Yeah,
anymore.
we've never split up, and we've had our arguments and disagreements, but we've never split up, and we've been mad at each other.
She's
You know,
put up with you all this time.
You know that, and you know what? I think we were like two injured birds, though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I introduced her father to Alcoholics Anonymous later on.
Right.
Harry. You
Harry. I remember Harry. I loved Harry.
Yeah, I loved him too.
I remember we went down to South Street one night, all three of us.
Oh yeah, that's when he when he
we
got
got
ice
ice
cream.
cream?
Yeah, we went to this ice cream store, you know, and Harry, you know, he thought everything was for free.
Yeah, right.
And you know, we went through the line. Everything's 75 cents you put on your ice cream, and we're sitting there eating the ice cream. And it's like $4.50 for these ice creams, and this is.
He got like a $9 cone.
Oh, it was like 12. He ordered this Sunday, and the girl kept saying, "Do you want this?" Yeah. You know, just more is better.
Yeah, it was turning into like an ice cream sundae.
Oh yeah, he got up to the end of the line. He had this thing of ice cream. It was like $12. So the whole thing was like $12 for this thing of ice cream. It was funny. You know what I mean?
Harry was a very simple guy.
Do you remember he used to go bowling with us?
Yeah.
He would throw the bowling ball down the lane. It never touched the lane. It would just knock the pins down.
Yeah, right.
I mean, this guy was like
he was a bruiser.
Yeah.
Yeah. He had this big scar down his face.
Yeah. He was in a bar one day drinking, and a guy that was trying to cut his wallet out of his pants.
Right.
And he caught the guy, and the guy had a straight razor you shave with.
That's right.
And gashed him right from his forehead all the way down through his nose, through his lip, and his chin.
Yeah, but missed his eyeball.
Yeah, missed his eye.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
he had and I think he went and got sewed up by a dentist. I think a dentist.
And it looked it.
Yeah, and it looked it. Yeah. So he was a mean looking dude if you looked at him.
He did. He was a scary looking guy.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I met him. You introduced us, and I thought, jeez.
He had a great heart, though.
He did. He was a sweetheart of a
he
guy.
loved his
I was sad
kids.
when he passed away.
Yeah. I took that hard.
I remember.
You know?
Yeah, I remember you telling me about that, and I felt brokenhearted for you. And so,
Yeah. He was a great guy.
Well, you know, when we got, you know, back in the old days, because that's how I look at it now. I mean, AA has changed in so many ways, in my opinion. Now they have the traditions, which are supposed to keep AA intact, and up until I think, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong here, but maybe up until like the late '80s, everything seemed to be. Pretty much AA was like staying the way AA was. There was no big changes and goofy. I remember these NA guys I was hanging out with. You know, they wanted to have everything all different. You remember I was living with those guys, right? I was sober about a year, and I moved in with these guys, and they're all NA guys, and they were nice guys, but they were goofy, and they were in the middle of writing the AA or the NA Big Book. And so they're getting all these stories together, and they'd have these conventions at our house. And I'd come home on a Friday after work, and there'd be like 30, 40 cars parked outside. I'm like, what is going on? And I'd walk in, and they'd be having all these people. They'd be flocked all over the place. They'd be, singing these goofy New Age songs and stuff. It was just really out there. It was like a bunch of hippies that like got sober. And but nothing else changed, and you know they all went skinny dipping together, and they're just really bizarre behavior. And I remember like they were reformulating the Lord's Prayer, which you'd always say at the end of an AA meeting, and they changed it to I forget what it was. It was some dopey thing, you know. Oh yeah, give us this day our daily strength.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember I said that at a Lansdale meeting with you one night. I'm standing there, Rolston, and I said, give us this day our daily strength. And as soon as it was over, you looked at me, you said, you know, I'm a Christian, and you're making a mockery of a prayer that wasn't given to us for us to go around and mess with it and make it the way we want it. He said this is the way that he set for us to say it. And I got a problem with you saying that. And I thought, you know, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. Because, you know, little by little, I've noticed just in AA, there's been like, I don't know, goofiness creeping in. And
people want to change things, and it's all about being. You know, when I got sober in Williamsport,
all right,
and if you were like talking some crap at the meeting,
Right.
somebody told you to shut up.
That's right.
Or somebody said, "This is why you're feeling that way. Stop doing it."
Yeah, I remember one night you and I were at a meeting, and some guy talked some real nonsense. It was just idiocy, and the guy that was speaking that night only had maybe like 6 months of sobriety, so he didn't know how to address the guy really, and he thanked him for sharing. And then you stuck your hand up and you pointed at that guy and you said, "That guy's going to get drunk," and everybody there was like. And Pat laid it out. You laid it out for why this guy was going to get drunk, and the guy did get drunk. By the way, he ended up getting drunk. He came back later. We found out, but the reality was nobody. I remember going to sobriety group, and back in the day, there was a motto in AA. You remember it well. The men go with the men,
women with women,
and the women go with the women. And that was the rule, because there's too much hanky-panky going on in our heads, as it were, and you don't be mixing that stuff up. I remember outside sobriety group one night, Pepsi Mike. Mike B. and Farmer Mike were talking to some guy in the parking lot who was hitting on one of the girls that was just getting sober, and they said, if you don't knock that stuff off, you're going to have some real problems. This guy said, "Hey, it's a free country, I can do what I want." And Pepsi Mike went over to his trunk, he opened it up, he pulled out a tire iron, and he said, he said, "You're talking about my sister." He said, "You're messing with my sister." He goes, "That's a sister?" He goes, "Anybody in AA who's a woman is Mike's sister." And this guy like jumped in his car and took off, peeled out of the parking lot, and we stood there looking at each other. And Mike was like, he was ready to cream the guy, all right, because we took it very seriously. You know, if you went to groups, you remember Young Men's.
Yeah.
Young Men's was a hardcore. This is a place that like, if they tried doing Young Men's today like they did then, there would be the Obama politically correct police would be there knocking the door down, telling them you can't do this.
I was at Young Men's one time during Christmas, and they did have a Christmas tree.
Right, I remember.
But it had a Nazi helmet on the top of the tree.
Right.
And there was like a wooden picture of Christ somebody put on the tree.
Yeah, all kind of junk.
Yeah, and this guy was looking at it, he was staring at the thing of Christ, and he went and he took it off the tree. And this is on Frankfurt Avenue.
Right.
And he walks over to the door and he threw it out in the middle of the tree. I said, "What'd you do that for?" He goes, "I don't think he was an alcoholic."
Yeah. Yeah, just bizarre.
I went to what was it, sobriety center one night, and there was a guy down there, Mike the Greek.
Yeah, Mike, he's still around.
And he says it's a program of death and life, not life and death. Everything's backwards.
Yeah, it's all messed up.
So I took one of my brother-in-laws to AA, and I took him there, and he introduced him to Mike the Greek, and he goes, "My name's Mike the Greek." And my brother-in-law, he don't know what to say to the guy. He looks at him, he goes, "I'm Bruce the Catholic."
Yeah.
It just, I was saying the other day, there was an AA speaker Sunday night, and the guy was saying that, this young kid was taking the AA test. It was Johnson,
the 20 questions?
Johnson University put out this 20 questions in the 70s.
Right.
And, it's like, did you ever have a problem with your drinking? Have you ever lost time from work?
Right.
Have you ever been hospitalized? Anybody ever said anything about your drinking? And it says at the end, if you answer 1, you may have a problem. If you answer 2, you probably have a problem. And if you answer 3 of these, you definitely have a problem. But this kid's taking the test, and he's like, yes, no. He's halfway through the test, and he looks up to the guy and goes, "How many do you have to get right or wrong?" He says, "It really doesn't matter how many you get right or wrong." He said, "Non-alcoholics never take the test."
That's really true.
You know what I mean? It's like if you're here, you're not here because you got a flat tire that came down.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah. You got an electrical problem with your car. Yeah.
Today in AA, there's a lot of people going in and out of AA.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
I have a big concern for that.
Mm-hmm.
When I came to AA, it was a matter of life or death. If I drank again,
mm-hmm.
I was probably going to spend the rest of my life institutionalized or end up killing myself or killing somebody else.
Right.
That was the importance in AA. Today, it's like, well, that guy just went out and he came back and nothing happened to him or her. It's just a revolving door, and people just keep coming in and out, in and out.
Yeah, I've seen that. It's
I
dispiriting.
ask them if they're done drinking when they come around. Are you done?
Yeah, right.
If you're not done, continue your drinking. When you're done, come to AA. That's what we're here for, to help you.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't like a stepping stone for
like a dry out tank
for your next binge.
Yeah.
The last 2 guys I drank with, and the last 2 guys I stole the cars with.
Right.
The first guy I stole the car with was John.
Right.
John died when I was 2 years sober.
Is that right?
He died of a methadone alcohol overdose. They found him dead in the backseat of a car at the Ambler train
That
station.
was the guy whose sister we met in AA a couple years later.
Barb,
yeah. She was a pretty blonde.
Yes, you met Barbara later on AA. And then Eddie was the second guy I stole that car with. And
That's
I took him to a rehab when I was sober, about 8 or 9 years sober. and he just never made it.
Really?
And he died in a shooting gallery in Philadelphia.
Oh, man.
When I was 15 years sober, he died.
Yeah.
So the last 2 guys I drank with died before I was 15 years sober.
Right.
There's been many more. There's a lot of them are in AA, and we enjoy the fellowship there.
Yeah.
The other ones that aren't, we're just waiting for them.
Well, yeah. Well, you remember the guy I got sober with, Joey?
Yes.
All right. Well, he and I met in rehab. He was the first guy who came up to me. Like I went, they checked me in, and then he took me down to art therapy. You make coffee mugs and you put the A symbol on them and all this nonsense. And the first, Lynn, the therapist, she says, "Joe, why don't you show Mark around?" And this guy goes up and goes, "Hi, I'm Joe, and I'm an alcoholic." And I'm like, "Oh, good for you. Your parents must be really proud of you." And I had no idea, but he and I were going to become best friends, and we ended up staying sober, getting out of rehab, stayed in touch. We both actually went back and worked at that rehab 2 years later. Working on the nursing staff, and we've been friends for 30 years now. And because we worked at Fairmount Institute, we knew what was happening with the people we got sober with. When we got there were 30 people that got there ahead of us, and when we left, 30 people came in behind us. It was a 28-day program, so there were 60 people approximately that we got sober with. Every one of them are dead. Me and Joe are the only 2 that are still alive. Every single one of them died. None of them stayed sober. Yeah. Every single one of them. And statistically, Joey should be dead. Not me. He should be dead. But seriously, the odds of getting sober are very, very low. But lately, like in the last few years and stuff, I don't know. When I say few years, I'm thinking decades. Actually, I'm thinking, the whole rehab thing. Going to rehabs has become like the norm. You go to rehab. Everybody goes to rehab. I remember being in Fairmount Institute, talking to Ray Johnson, my psychiatrist, and telling him my problems, telling him all the stuff that's going on. And when I was done at the end of each session, he always said the exact same thing to me. He said, "Mark, if you don't go to AA when you leave here, you're dead."
Yeah.
And that's all he said. And I thought, this is $14,000 my dad spent for me to go to rehab for them to tell me to go AA. When I just told Bobby Carr I don't need to go to AA, I'm going to a rehab. What the heck is up with that? I get out and I go to AA, and everybody's talking down rehab. So I was like, oh, wait a minute. What's so bad about me going to rehab and stuff? He said, because it ain't AA. It ain't reality. You gotta reprieve for a little while. Nowadays, everybody goes to rehab, and I bump into people left and right, that have drinking problem stuff, and they're talking about they want to go to a rehab. What are your takes on rehabs, Pat? I mean, what do you think about the whole rehab issue?
I think it's a good starting place to dry somebody out and to give them some brief knowledge on AA. But after your 3rd, 4th rehab. What did we send you to rehab for?
Yeah, right.
If you didn't hear it the 1st or 2nd or 3rd time, I doubt if you're going to hear it the 5th or 6th time.
Right. Or you've already heard everything there is to hear.
You've heard. I spoke at Eagleville one night.
Right.
And it's like a pit you speak in, like an auditorium. You're in the center of the pit. Mm-hmm. And I was like they must have thought I was taking a test. Has anybody been here before? And half the people in the room raised their hand.
Right. Yeah.
I said, any of you been here more than once? Yeah,
all these hands.
Anybody been here more than 4 times? I got up to 4 times. There was still like half a dozen people had their hands up.
Right.
I've been there before. And I said, anybody never been here? It's the first time they ever heard anything about AA
right.
or been in a rehab. And there's like 3 people with their hand. I said, what I'm going to say tonight, I'm saying to you 3.
Yeah, right.
I said, because they already heard it. Mm-hmm. I said, for you hearing it the first time, I said, take this seriously. You don't have to come here the 4th or 5th time.
That's right.
You can get it today. It's about continuous sobriety.
Right.
Staying sober today. It's not about continuous relapsing. Relapse does happen.
Right.
But, it's not about the continuous people come back and from a 4th time in AA in the last year. Mm-hmm. They come in, everybody claps for them. They give them a 30-day coin or a 1-day coin.
Yeah.
And they tell them to keep coming back, which is what we're supposed to do.
Right. Yeah.
But, the next day the guy's talking like he knows what he's doing. They told people when I came around, shut up and listen.
Right.
Take the cotton out of your ears and shove it in your mouth and listen.
Right.
God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth, so you can do twice as much listening as you can talking.
Right.
You
do just the opposite.
Now, if you say that to a newcomer today, people look like you're indignant.
Yeah.
Christmas Day, I went to a meeting at a clubhouse down from my house, and some guy was there, and he says, "F Jesus and F Mary," on Christmas Day.
Oh yeah.
So I turned him.
Nice guy.
Yeah, I turned him at the meeting. I said, "You can't talk like that, Nay." And somebody said he can say whatever he wants. And I said he can say whatever he wants, but he might get a fist in his face. I said you can't. I'm offended by that and that kind of talk here. I said even cursing and some of this nonsense that goes on in AA today. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I get discouraged a lot of times. I got to listen to everybody's problems. I'd rather be with people that are positive and doing. I understand we have to help the newcomer. That's our main purpose.
Yeah.
Stay sober and help the newcomer achieve sobriety.
Right. Yeah.
And we have to be honest with these people.
Yeah.
We can't keep sugarcoating, oh, it's good you're back. You know, I say to the new person that's coming back again, what's going to be different this time than you did last time?
Right.
Because whatever you did last time, throw it out the window. It didn't work for you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, excuse me, you got to make some changes in your life.
Yeah.
You know, in early recovery, they said, you know, you have to make change. I said, what do you got to change?